still only 22-year-old Morant, and the soon-to-be 37-year-old James. LeBron's big day is tomorrow. Said he's on the other side of the hill, but only in the context of that he won't play another 19 years. He was 8 of 19 from deep in this one. The J is so improved over the years. Wasn't broken before, but it's such a weapon now at this stage of his career. Closing seconds of the third. There's Ja. He had 30 through 3. Memphis down 5, headed to the fourth. In the fourth, Tyus Jones, the bucket. He had 7 assists as well. Midway through the fourth, Jones to a wide open Ja. 6 of 7 from behind the arc in this one. The Grizz led it by 4. Still a 4-point game. Desmond Bain, former TCU Frog, kicks it to Ja. Dad's loving every minute of it. The Grizz led by 7. Under 3 minutes to go. LeBron answers with the 3. His 8th 3 of the night, surpassing J.J. Redick as the oldest player to make 8 threes in a game. But Ja went for a season-high 41. He has 2 40-point games this year, both against the Lakers. 17 seconds to go. LeBron gets caught up in the air, turns it over. Russ had a triple-double in this game. LeBron extends his 30-point streak to 6 games. But the Lakers dropped to 17 and 19 on the year.
What statement did LeBron make last night?
He continued a statement that I was already over the hill on. He's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. And
the greatest.
I know that this argument goes all over the place, but to me personally, LeBron is the greatest. And what it really boils down to is not only how his game has evolved, but the journey it took to get there as an individual player. We talked about him not being able to shoot, so he went and became a better shooter. We talked about his post game. He went and became a better post player. He implemented things about his game, about his career, and he continued to get better at a time where he was already the best in the game. So the level of respect I have for the amount of work that he put in, even after being considered the best player in the NBA, the ability to go to franchise. See, this is the thing we miss about LeBron. We talk about super teams, and we talk about how he created those, but those teams don't do much after he leaves. I don't think it's a coincidence. I just think it's LeBron James being a part of those rosters. So for me, as I'm 38 years old, and I know that the Jordan era, and I know people will fight tooth and nail for MJ. LeBron James is the best basketball player I've ever seen in my life, and I consider him to be the best basketball player ever.
Monica's not convinced.
Spears? Listen, Charlie, this argument is absolutely agonizing. It's not new. It's not new. And it's absolutely agonizing. I personally am not ready to go there. Is LeBron James possibly the best athlete I've ever seen in a basketball uniform? Is he maybe one of the most important catalysts of time in terms of his ability to take championships with him? Yes, but I still think that in a sport that is still largely quantified by your ability to go and win the Larry O'Brien trophy, I'm not ready to see the throne from MJ just yet. I think you cannot have this conversation in a vacuum because you have to acknowledge the different eras that we're talking about. And yes, LeBron James is
100%.
His 37th birthday, and that is an absolute feat in and of itself, the things that he's still able to do at this age. But I think it's still the rings for me. And that may be an antiquated argument for some, but I still think that is the tentpole in terms of how we are going to measure success. Because even take LeBron, Kobe, guys that got rings out of the conversation, our favorite dig, to Chuck is that he doesn't have one. And so I still think the rings hold the most importance to me in this conversation.
See, the subscription to that, Mon, is always my issue because you know the arguments, you know the Bill Russell arguments, you know the number of rings that guys have. So, and look, to your point about generation, okay? My dad would tell you that Kareem the best basketball player he's ever seen.
This is true.
So like when we construct this whole argument, or when we start talking about these guys, we are talking about the elite of the elite. We splitting hairs, we separating very microscopic things when it comes to these guys. The thing that gives me the push, and this is my argument. This is not to argue with anybody. The way you look at basketball, the way you deem the best you ever saw is based on your experience and what you like as a basketball player. When I look at LeBron, I look at a guy. Yeah, I look at a guy that spans across all 5 spots on the floor, Mon.
Yeah.
I look at a dude that literally has promoted and produced the careers of guys that we wouldn't consider to be high-level NBA basketball players when it comes to contract situations and their ability to go deep in the playoff runs. And also, Mon, like a big thing for me, and other people may not equate this to him being the greatest ever. We all have to acknowledge that the dude was 18 when he became the face of a franchise and was able to live up to that for his career. Like, I'm not talking about a few years. His career, he's still, to your point, he's still playing. Like, he lived up to that from day one. And Monica, everybody get mad at me for saying this, but we can all agree. You and I, or Perk or Charlie were not checking for the Cleveland Cavaliers until LeBron James went there. Nobody was.
100%.
Y'all know me. Y'all know I'm a huge basketball fan. So I have a lot more than just, obviously he's accomplished everything on the court. But I look at a lot of the intangible things as well. I'm not even talking about off the court, what he's done in the community. I saw this dude, man, you remember this. I saw this dude guard Derrick Rose in a series, and then followed that up by guarding Kevin Garnett in a series. Everybody brings up the Mavs. Everybody brings up he disappeared against the Mavs. Fine, it was a terrible series. You know he almost averaged a triple-double in his worst. That's the worst moment people can find in LeBron's career. And he almost averaged a triple-double in that playoff series. So I look at the dude and I think to myself, we've never seen it before. Never seen this kind of basketball player before, and maybe we don't know how to place him, but he stands alone.
Okay, so LeBron's already been playing for 19 years. He just said it this week. He doesn't see another 19 years left in his career. So he is, on the second part of his career. But Monica, still lots of time for him to accomplish what he needs to. So what would another championship on his resume do for you in terms of this argument?
I think we're there, Charlie. Like, then I have no argument. And again, I admit that the rings is a little bit antiquated. And maybe I'm a purist and have watched too many Michael Jordan tapes and all that with my dad and really kind of studied the game in that regard. Because everything Swagoo said is right? I honestly, this is probably the worst debate ever, in that LeBron is doing things that we have never seen. But I still think that when you set out to play NBA basketball, the bar remains the Larry O'Brien trophy. And I think it is also,
no doubt.
Again, I mentioned the difference in errors. I wonder, now listen, the camp that thinks LeBron wouldn't have been able to play during Mike's era, they are tripping. Because I think he absolutely would have, because of his body, because of his basketball IQ. It would have been something different, but I think he would have been just fine.